You're listening to the Marne Report.
Hi, Fort Stewart-Hunter Army Airfield. It's Kelsie Steber with the Public Affairs Office. I'm joined today by our very special guest, Tony Grinston, who is the CEO of Army Emergency Relief and the 16th Sergeant Major of the Army. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you? It's nice and warm here.
It is. We just had all the winter snow, so you came at a perfect time.
Yeah, I was freezing to death yesterday, so it was about 30. I think the high there was 32, so I was like, is that right? It's 80? So it's nice. It's good to be back.
Have you been here before?
Yes, I've never been stationed here, but
Okay.
I've visited several times. But I was in 3rd ID when they were in Germany.
Oh.
And I saw the Rock of the Marne, which is a big rock in Schweinfurt. So yeah, I did 3 years in 3rd ID.
Okay, awesome. So you saw the legit Rock of the Marne.
The legit Rock of the Marne, yeah.
As I said before, you were previously the Sergeant Major of the Army. You've now transitioned as the Director of Army Emergency Relief. Could you share more about your role and kind of AER for those who don't know?
Yeah, I really love my job. I always start with that. I just love it. I love it. Because at the end of the day, I help soldiers, active, Guard, and Reserve, as long as the Guard and Reserve serving on Title 10 over 30 days, with financial assistance. And some people say, well, what's your category? I said, we have one, help soldiers. So we do have roughly like 30 categories that fit into a special box. But in the bottom line said, if a soldier needs financial assistance, go to AER and we'll find a way to help them out.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really good program. So I know you guys have an annual campaign coming up. It runs from March 1st to June 14th. How was your first year on the job with that campaign?
It was a learning curve. I had a lot of things to learn, like how to, talk about AER the right way. And, I just, like any new job, you're going to fumble around with it and find your way. I still love what I was doing, but I had to really articulate what we do. And I think a lot of times we always start with give to AER, and I would just prefer to say, this is what we do. And I'll use an example from here. We had a sergeant first class who needed help. Whole house was flooded, hurricanes came through and lost his whole house, and we provided him a way to rebuild his house, the entire house.
Wow.
That's what we do with your money. And when we tell those stories, people will say, yes, I would like to give to an organization like that. If you just generalize it, find that people don't want to give to AER, but there's people behind that, and it's usually soldiers. And my running joke at the end of the campaign was, okay, you can stop saying thank you for your service. You can donate to AER. So some people laugh at that. Some people don't think that's very funny, but it's a great organization, and that's why I love it so much.
Do you have any goals for this year specifically?
Yeah, I do. So last year we had 10% of the active duty soldiers would give to AER, and we exceeded that goal. I was really excited about
Congrats.
that. So we just doubled it this year. So
Wow.
We're going to 25% for active duty participation. It's the 250th anniversary of the Army. So we just kind of shortened that down by one little decimal spot and went with 25%. It's a goal. And this is about commitment to your Army. It's all we help. We don't help actually a veteran. We help active duty soldiers and their families, surviving spouses, retirees. So there's no other organization that does that. And that's why I think 25% is a good goal, and we're sticking to it.
Yeah, it definitely chimes in right with the Army's 250th.
There it is.
I like that.
Yeah.
As you said, you try to get soldiers, 25% of active duty is your goal. Why do you think other soldiers should give to AER?
Yeah, it's like that story I just told you, is that just as soldiers, just kind of being committed to your profession. If the Army is a profession, the chief even said that, General George, and one of his 4 areas, one of those was the profession. And why would I say that? Is that's who we help. We help Army soldiers. We'll help an Air Force, but then we want the money back from the Air Force. So we have an agreement with the other relief societies. But this is about giving back to your profession and about helping soldiers. And the bottom line, there's a person at the end of that. I've got so many stories in 1 year, and these are heartbreaking. And I think most people, why don't you hear about all these stories, is that people are going through a hard time and they don't want to ask for help. And I've actually said this multiple times. I said, you should not be afraid to ask for help for behavioral help, and you shouldn't be afraid to ask for financial help and come to AER. So I think that's one of the things is that people are afraid to ask for help. So they don't want to tell you their stories, and then you think you're giving money to this mystical thing called AER.
Yeah.
And in all reality, it's my first case. So I go back once a month. I work in assistance. So I will go in the system. It takes me forever. Somebody's got to sit next to me. Tony, don't type there. But I will actually work a case myself as the CEO. This is my first one. We had a staff sergeant was in the hospital with stage 4 cancer. Just like, okay. His wife grabs the rental car, staying in a hotel. She runs up a bill for $4,000. And, you know, I'm typing this in. I'm like, I'm calling him. And it's like, yep, yeah, you know, my unit didn't do this, my unit didn't do that. And, you know, we're just really struggling right now. And I said, we're going to give you the money. It's going to be a whole grant. And of course, the guy next to me was like, okay, Tony, you can't work back here anymore. You give all the money away. But I think that's the problem is with the campaign is we don't hear those stories. And I think it's the fear that people don't want to tell you that they're going through a tough time and they don't want to tell you the story. But I will. And that's where your money goes. That's what we do. And I think that's why sometimes we fail to meet some of our goals is that people just don't want to tell that they're going through a really tough time and they don't want to tell you that they got help from AER. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with them not going to the chain of command. Don't get mad at me. So it's like I said, if you call the headquarters, we'll help you. If you call the Red Cross, we'll help you. If you call the Air Force Aid Society, we'll help you. So all those people we have agreements with, they give out money on behalf of AER.
I didn't know that.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
That's a vast network. And as you said, people not going out, I think, you never know if it's going to be that soldier on the left or right of you. And I think that's what's special about AER, as you said, is the depth and the reach. Transitioning though, you have some policy updates for 2025. Do you want to tell us more about those? Oh yeah, I think the biggest thing is we went off with a really great bang was emergency travel. We're going to do 100% emergency travel. And normally I told my own personal story. My mom a few years ago passed away. I fly home before she passes away. I get to see her before she dies, and I come back, grab my family, buy another plane ticket. Actually, my whole family. Then we go back. We go there for a funeral, and then on the way home, we get stuck in Atlanta because there's thunderstorms. What I didn't know, the airline doesn't give you a hotel room for the thunderstorm. Yeah. You got to pay for it yourself, and then you come back. And of course, Sergeant Major Army, I got money to do that. And now you're like, man, how does a young family do that? Like, that's terrible. So my goal last year was to do 100% emergency travel as a grant. What we're doing was 50% loan and 50% grant, and now that's 100% grant. So that's number one. Love that. Couple of quick things. We're going to do an online application. I know we're going to move into the year of 2020. So somebody says 1990. So we've had an online application that you actually wasn't very useful. The online application is going to actually get you an application now. So we're hoping to roll that out this year and hopefully the next month or so, where you'll go online and get full services through AER online. And you shouldn't even have to go to an AER office to get your money, and we'll disperse that through electronic funds. We already do Zelle. So the online application is going to be revolutionary for us. So that's our goal. And then the other thing is add Army Reserve full-time. So right now they're Title 10, but they're not on active duty orders. And I want to add them for available for assistance full-time. That's gonna be a big game changer right there.
Yeah.
And I think that online application will especially help people who are afraid of, either picking up the phone and trying to explain your situation to someone, like privacy of just online typing and telling your story and like why you need help. I feel like more people will be drawn towards AER for sure.
Yeah, we think so too. And then there's always this debate on, on one side the commander says, oh, you got to tell me. And then on the other side's like, soldier needs help. So I've had a lot of talking points with commanders and first sergeants, and they go, well, are you going to tell us this? And I said, no. I've been very clear. I said, AER is not here to make up for leadership. If you don't know your soldiers, that's not my fault. Our job is to help soldiers in financial need. So hopefully your soldiers will talk to you. If they don't, then you probably need to figure that out on your own. That's not our job.
What is one thing that you've learned about AER since being in this position that you didn't know while you were serving?
Man, one thing.
It could be more.
There's a long list of things that it's a big business. It's worldwide. There's in all reality, we could help about 1 million people all along the globe. But I think I was a board member, so I kind of knew that. But until you're on the business side of that, okay, if all the power goes out and you can't, and they knock down the cell phone towers when the hurricane hit Asheville, North Carolina. Like, how do we get the money? We're like, I don't know, get a bucket of cash. It's like, what do we do? So, there's a lot of business aspects to AER. That was number one. Number two, the full breadth of the categories of what we do. And I guess you kind of know. You get all the board briefings and it says, here's all these categories. And that's why I keep going. Don't try to memorize it. And lastly, I didn't understand. And I tell a lot of people this is a commander's program. If a commander calls or a sergeant major and says, I need help with this soldier, my answer is could be, of course. And so it's like, why would I tell no? And I think I didn't really understand that. I thought, we got to call here. And I get this all the time. Actually, I get it all the time from division and brigade sergeant majors about, they're calling my headquarters and I go, you could just go right there to your local office. And they have full authority up to about $5,000 at your post. So I think a lot of learning about the authorities that a commander could have in our program. I know even as the Sergeant Major Army, I don't think I fully understood all the authorities we had at AER. It's great.
Yeah, I mean AER is definitely vast and has a lot. Switching over a little more. You had obviously a long, successful career in the Army.
I guess I did okay.
Yeah. Just a sergeant major in the Army. No big deal.
I did all right, yeah.
The 16th.
Yeah.
Reflecting on that, what would you tell soldiers who are still in, like right now? What would be kind of your piece of advice? You've had some time to reflect. You've been out for almost 2 years now. What would you say?
I don't think you have enough time for that podcast. I'd have a lot to say to myself or anybody else. Yeah. I'll bucket it down to probably, a unit leader and then a soldier. The advice I give to unit leadership is be a great leader to your soldiers. And the only thing that your soldiers should have to worry about is you as a leader. It's your job to take care of them. You're going to be hard on them. You're going to make sure they know their warfighting skills. If they're worried about anybody above you, you're not doing your job. So that's kind of how I felt. And if you're a soldier, don't worry about anybody above, your company commander, first sergeant, or battalion commander. So a lot of times we get worked up about this other stuff, whatever that is. And bottom line, is my leader somebody I trust, and are they going to take care of me? And if that's the case, then head down and do your job. I mean, there's a lot of noise about a lot of stuff, especially now with social media and everything that's going on. And the bottom line, this is a true story. I had this conversation with the Sergeant Major Army, and we were talking about the noise. And this is a soldier that worked for me personally. It's not very often you see the Sergeant Major Army arguing with a soldier. It was true, though. We were arguing, and we were open, in an open area, too. And it was a true argument. And we were talking about all this stuff. And I said, do you trust me as a leader? He's like, yes. I said, does that phone do anything harmful to you? And the look was like, yeah, it hurts me all the time. I was like, no, I can take this phone. Give me your phone. I'm going to smash it right here. And he's like, you're smashing my phone? I was like, I didn't smash his phone. But I mean, I was like, my point was, I said to him, do you think I care for you as a leader? Yes. I said, that phone, you can put it down, you can smash it on the ground. You will not be hurt at all. There'll be no effect on your life. And you will keep moving on. And I think we need more leaders to do that. Now, there's so much going on. I think we need to put it in perspective. At the soldier level, put it in perspective. At the leader level, make sure that they know that you care about them. And the biggest worry they ever have is you. It's like, and all this other stuff, don't worry about it.
I like that. That's good advice. I want to take that for myself, too. I mean, noise is all around us. But speaking of myself, I am a civilian. You work side by side with civilians all your career, too, not just soldiers. So would you have any advice for, civilians like me or contractors out there?
Yeah, I do. We get this all the time. Believe it or not, our headquarters, AER headquarters, is 50% never served. So it's a little surprising. That's one of those things I learned. I told you, it was a long list. I was like, what? Well, I thought it was like 80-20, but no, about 50%. The biggest thing for anybody outside is don't be afraid to ask about military service. And sometimes we assume everybody knows, and it's just not true. Of course you know what that acronym is. I have no idea what that acronym is, and the Army's full of them. We're not aliens or anything else. But the biggest thing for somebody that's not served is just ask the question. With the Army and me, and I personally, I've been, I do this at home, I do it to everybody, unfortunately, is I'm not going to walk up and tell you all about me or the Army. I'll say I love the Army and I was in the Army. If people would dig, like, well, what'd you do in the Army? I worked in the Army.
I was just the 16th sergeant. Right
No, I never do that. I'll be honest with you, I never do that. It's very rare I go, I was a Sergeant of the Army. I would say I worked at the Pentagon, and then finally I was like, okay, this actually happened with us. Okay, I was the Sergeant of the Army, and they're like, oh, you're not the Chief of Staff of the Army. I was like, no. They're like, oh, okay.
They still don't know. They're
like, they have no clue. So just ask, and I would tell them all the time. I was playing golf. I was on vacation one time, and somebody asked me about something. I told them. I said, well, how do you know that? It's because I was there. And they were like, wait a minute, I didn't know that. It's not what I read in the paper. It's not what I read in the news. I said, I know. But I'm telling you, I was standing there. But you have to, unfortunately, you sometimes just have to ask that question. Don't be afraid to ask, hey, why they do this? And most of the time, they'll answer it. But I think it works both ways. As a transitioning soldier, even though I've had 36 years of experience in the military, the same thing I would give to you is ask. As a transitioning soldier, don't be afraid to ask. Somebody else said, and I do this all the time with my development officer. I'm like, hey, Aaron, how do we do that? Like, well, is that common? So I ask a lot of questions. It's not that I don't understand. I can't run the organization. It's just I haven't dealt with that.
Yeah, you now transition that civilian side, and so now you have questions about
tons, all the time.
The private sector, yeah. Well, thank you for joining me today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Other than I love the Army. I love what I do, and I'm really happy that I can still help soldiers and their families, and it's encouraging, and I can't think of a better job.
Well, thank you for everything. That is all the time we have today. So thank you for coming down here. Thank you for joining me, and hope you have a great rest of your visit.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
The My Army Post app is your one-stop source for all things Fort Stewart-Hunter Army Airfield. With map at your fingertips, you'll never miss out on upcoming events, installation updates, facility and gate information, weather, shopping, and so much more. My Army Post is free from your phone's app store. Download today.